Hello everyone, this is Professor Hill. This is a short video for our class Introduction to Ethics Philosophy 2306 at St. Philip's College. This is the quick, concentrated summer version. And for our online class, we're looking at our textbook, Doing Ethics by Lewis Vaughn. And I just wanted to say a few quick words today, Tuesday, June the 12th, 2018, and talk a little bit about the assignments. I went through them yesterday, and I can tell you that, and I said this before, I just need to say it again, which is that the point of these essays is to take the material from the textbook and apply it into the case studies. Lots of people did that really well, and got all the points. That's great. Some people, though, the people that didn't get all the points for the assignment didn't do the assignment. And there's a test that I want you to do. When you get finished writing your response, you're looking at it and you think, okay, I've done what I needed to do for my assignment. I want you to stop and I want you to look at that and read it and think to yourself, can I have written this response without having first read the textbook? Because for a lot of people, the response they wrote was long enough, it engaged with the case study, but you could have just responded, you could have given the same response just off the top of your head, and that's not what we're trying to do. I do value your opinions, your judgments. I want you to consider these factors, make a choice, but I also want you to be applying the lessons from the textbook. And look, you can see good examples of people doing that in the discussion. It's part of the reason we're using this model, is you can see really well developed, thought out responses where people are incorporating the textbook and the concept, the definitions and concepts from the textbook. Now, if you do that, you also need to get it right. There's some people that are like, this is what the textbook said, and I'm like, oh no, that's not what the textbook said at all. So you gotta take the concepts and apply them, and you gotta get them right. So that's the next step. Now listen, on this first go around, I said I would try to be relatively lenient because it was the first case study, and people are still getting the hang of it, and I understand that. But listen, hey, the problem with summer classes is they're short, they're concentrated. Our next assignment is due tomorrow, so we got to get on this. And I want to make just a few quick comments about our next case study too, which is this case about John the paramedic. And it turns out that story is a true story. It came right out of a class discussion in a face-to-face class I had on ethics. And John was a student in my class, and he told that story. And wow, you can imagine. You could have heard a pin drop when he got to the end of it. And an interesting thing happened. There's kind of this long silence, and the first question from another student is, John, could you have saved that guy? And he says, oh, yeah. And then somebody kind of jumps in and goes, you ought to be in prison. And then in the next second, somebody else jumps in and goes, hell no, you should get a medal. Now, I got to tell you, it just split that class right in half. And it was extraordinary to hear him tell this story in class, and be able to have the students ask him questions about. Now, I got to tell you, John said in class that he thinks he made the right decision and that he, quote unquote, sleeps like a baby at night. Wow, I got to tell you, I don't think this is even a close case. But there's lots of people who disagree with me. Now, here's the thing about it. What I want you to do is make a decision. Look at the questions that I'm asking you about this case. And again, this is going to be the hard part as we get into this. And this is what I want the case studies to do. They're going to force you not just to make a decision, but to examine why. What's your foundation for that? Why do you think something is good or bad, right or wrong? Where does that come from? How did that get inside of you? Where was that shaped and formed? Where were those values that were inculcated into you? Where did they come from? And you need to be explicit about that. And again, we need to be talking about the concepts from chapter 2 and describing our own thinking about this. Now that I've made a decision and I've given some reasons, is my thinking objectivist in nature? Is my thinking relativistic in nature? Is it a reflection of my cultural values? Is it a reflection of some rule or principle that I just learned and now I'm applying? You got to think about why. Not just is it wrong or right, but why do you think it's wrong or right? And again, you got to stay away from the whole, you've got your opinion, I've got mine, they're all the same. That's one of the dangers that Louis Vaughn talks about at length in chapter 2 in terms of this distinction. There are clearly some things, the nature of which, when we're talking about it, you've got your opinion and I've got mine. And look, ice cream flavors leap to mind. He talks about them in the book. I personally like German chocolate cake. I think that's the best flavor of ice cream, meaning that I like that the best. But that's completely subjective and personal to me. That's something over which I have the final word because it's a personal preference. It would be kind of silly for me to insist to you that the best ice cream is German chocolate cake because you might like something else. And when we're talking about this, the flavor of ice cream, the nature of that is that you've got your opinion and I've got mine, and they're kind of equal in that because they're unique and special to you. But that's also not true for other things, right? It's not like you get to decide and have an opinion about whether 1 + 1 = 2, and I do, and maybe I agree with it, maybe I don't. Maybe I think 1 + 1 = 36, and that's my opinion. Well, guess what? I'd be wrong about that because the nature of math or arithmetic is such that you don't even really get an opinion about it. I mean, think about that. You don't even really get an opinion about it. That's just the way that is. It's objectively true that 1 + 1 = 2. So it's not like the whole your opinion, my opinion, and they're equal and equally valid applies to math. That's objective. Now, here's where we get into chapter 2 in our textbook. The objectivists want to say that morality is like that. We're going to bring this kind of objectivist thinking to moral issues and say, look, it's either right or wrong. And if you disagree with me, you're going to be wrong. And so now the question becomes, is that the nature of morality? Is the source of that me, meaning like ice cream, it's whatever I think is right, and we get into the subjective relativism he talks about. Is it that it's completely black and white and that all moral issues are going to be decided one way or the other, and you either know it or you don't, you're right or you're wrong about that, whether it's good or bad? You might think something is good and you're wrong. Or is there something even more complicated somehow in the middle? Now, he talks about cultural relativism. And he talks about it in our textbook by lumping it together with emotivism, which basically says nothing's right or wrong. All of this talk about morality and good and bad, right and wrong is just expressions of emotion. There is no morality. And subjective relativism, which says it's up to you, everybody. Even in terms of moral issues, you've got yours, I've got mine. It's all, and again, he points out all the problems with that. But then he kind of lumps cultural relativism in with subjectivism and emotivism and says they're all in one bucket together. And there's this big divide between relativism and objectivism. And when he phrases it like that, you can see the appeal to say, well, since there's so many problems over here, maybe the objectivists are right. But you need to, today, the thing I want you to do is finish reading chapter 2, and I want you to look at the distinction between cultural relativism and objectivism, and cultural relativism and subjective relativism. And I want you to think about the values and beliefs of a society and a culture and how that shapes people and is a source of authority for people. That's not individual, and it's not a principle or rule that somehow is objective or free-floating over all cultures. Because at some point, when we start talking about things which are culturally constructed, society-wide, socially constructed, it's things that start to sound like language. I didn't invent English. I learned it. I use it. I'm using it right now in this video. And it changes over time because there's Old English and Middle English. We can see that. Try reading Shakespeare, right? It's not a lot different than what I'm doing right now. But it's still English. And it's something which we do together as a people. Over time, it shifts and changes because we're all, again, it's not like I can decide today, I'm going to make a decision as an individual that, door, the symbol for door, the word for door, we're going to switch that with a window. And since I declared that, everyone now is going to switch those two symbols and use door for window and window for door. I don't have the power to do that. And yet, you got to remember, when you're talking about see, there's this glass door behind me. I mean, it's a door. It's got a wood frame and a glass window in the middle of it. When I'm talking about the symbol for that piece of glass in that door, and I say it's a window, you got to remember, that's just the language that I'm using, that symbol to designate that thing. It's not that it's any more a window than it is a ventana or some other symbol in a different language. There's lots of different languages. They all have different symbols for that object. And those things which are socially constructed, society by society, culture by culture. Is the nature of morality like that? Is the nature of morality like math and science? Is the nature of morality like your favorite personal flavor of ice cream? This is what we're talking about in chapter 2. It's easy to start with what I think is right and wrong and give a couple of reasons even for it. But I want you to try to step back, do some meta-ethics, right? Engage in a process where you're thinking about why is something right or wrong, good or bad, and try to start to think about how to pin that down. And again, you're going to need to be thinking about this when you apply it to the case study of John the paramedic. You think it's right? You think it's wrong? Say why, but then also describe your own thinking using the terms and concepts from chapter 2. Like I said, that was the biggest weakness from the first go-round, but that was just the first go-round. Remember, we still got a few weeks. We still got more work to do ahead. Just remember to engage with the material from the textbook and apply it to what you're doing, and you'll be fine. And again, you can see models of that. Lots of people are doing this really well. So keep up the good work. I'll talk to you again soon, and we'll keep working. Take care. Bye-bye.